Hi everyone, I'm Bill Anderson, and I am so delighted to be joined by Nick and Ellie today. How you doing, guys?
Well, how are you doing?
Yeah, we're okay. It's just the usual mundane stuff down here. Not like you guys are sort of commandos in and out of a war zone. How you doing, guys? How are things?
Retired, yes.
Yeah, I think I think also it's not just a drive because obviously we drove about 40 hours, didn't we?
Oh
We
my
left on
goodness.
Saturday, and we arrived to the Medica border on Tuesday
Yeah, which is
morning.
what, 3,600 kilometers.
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
Um,
so in case anybody doesn't know, you've been taking a van load of aid from Mijas, and were these donations made from people in Mijas, or how did that work
Exactly.
then?
So it was all the stuff that was donated to Think and Drop, organized by Daniela.
Yes,
The Carolines got in contact with us as well, saying they had loads of blankets that had been donated. So we took the materials that we needed from Think and Drop, and we picked up the stuff from La Carolines.
and we also
And we also got some other stuff from us as well. We had a few cash donations come in, which we then
right,
spent on medical supplies.
like tourniquets,
right. Wow.
betadine, gauze, because they were really in need before we went. You'll see a lot of people kind of say, they don't need any more donations, and it's not true. They need medical supplies. They need military gear and medical supplies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have enough clothes now. There's clothes coming in from all over. So I was going to talk to Daniela when I get back anyway, because we can do another drive. Because I just had a contract with someone else who's going
Right.
to drive over.
Mm.
So if we can do a drive for more medical supplies, it's medical supplies and blankets.
Yeah, medical.
Right.
Basically, that's what they want. More than anything else at the moment is that.
Okay. I want to just ask about the experience. It's a long drive, a hell of a long drive, guys. But as you were approaching Ukraine, how were you guys feeling about it?
The anxiety went up a little bit. I think
Yeah.
the closer we got, the more nervous we got. But it was offset though, because the closer we got, the more vehicles that we saw with the humanitarian sign on it and
Right.
Ukraine flags. And the
Military
closer we got to the
truck.
border, yeah, military trucks were going. But you also saw just random cars with notes in the windows saying "We stand with Ukraine." And
I mean, the support throughout Europe, you really see the difference when we drove through, um, when we got to kind of places like Poland and stuff. Every single notice board on the highway was, solidarity with Ukraine and we
Yeah,
stand with Ukraine. And
sure.
we even had people like beeping at us, didn't we?
yeah,
We had,
yeah.
like cheering us on.
Yeah, the border guard one time just turned around and said, "Well done, thank you so much for doing what you're doing."
Yeah.
I've never seen so many Ukrainian flags, buildings lit up in Ukrainian colours, anything
Yeah.
that I found. I mean, literally, I don't think Europe has ever experienced something like this in terms of the amount of support
Mm.
that the
Sure.
general people have
Yeah.
for what's going, for the Ukrainian people and for the Ukrainian military in their defence of the country.
Right. And can you describe for us the scene as you approached Ukrainian border? What were you seeing there?
You know,
Tense.
yeah, I think there was, I mean, I took the camera with us and I wanted to film because, I think film can often portray emotion and description that you can't put into words.
Right.
And, you know, people are a little bit uneasy about people filming, one, because of the safety of the Ukrainian soldiers, but also because a lot of the media were kind of treating these people like they're in a zoo. And it is very difficult when you watch the news to remember that these people literally we were with this family in Ukraine, and they had a 18-month-old child, no, an 8-month-old child, sorry, and his brother, probably about 7 years old, was carrying him and his two plastic bags. The mum
Right.
was also having the bags to carry, and they had other children. And these are people that are coming without their dads, without their grandfathers, and
Their older brothers.
without their older brothers, because they've had to stay and fight. And if I could say one thing, the children's faces as we were passing them and handing them out sweets, it broke my heart. And I genuinely had to hold back the tears because I didn't feel like I had any right to cry, because I live in Spain, my house is still there when we get back, but
Yeah.
the sheer
Yeah.
emptiness of these people's lives because of the actions of one man is just, it's heartbreaking.
But the border itself, though, was. I mean, I have a friend. By coincidence, I had a friend there who we got in contact with, and right now the border is actually quite well organised. I mean, all the you literally you have about 35, 40 different agencies there now and charities, from the Red Crescent to the Sikh International Alliance,
Orange
Orange Mobile, the Free China, the Free China Society. You have the Red Cross are there, the UNHCR. So, but also just individuals there who've gone there and set up shop in these little buildings.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just incredible. So we're talking to these people, and my friend was one of the first people on site. He said, now it's completely different. 3 weeks ago, it was a mud field. And it was just literally, they built up this entire miniature city trying to do it. And so you have this pathway coming from the border, and they've got all these tents on here, and all the supplies are on there. So as they come through, as the refugees come through the border, they get handed anything they want. If they need hot food, they have hot food. We had the red borscht, yeah. There's coffee, there's tea, there's water, there's umbrellas, there's clothing. So whatever they are lacking, they can literally get given everything they need, and then the Polish government and the Polish army are loading them onto buses that basically turn up there, and as soon as one bus is full, they get basically shipped out to a town that's volunteered to house these people.
And you've also got the medical tent. So when people come through, if they've been, they had a lot of Mariupol residents come through
on stretchers and wheelchairs.
And I think we were speaking to Nick's friend, and she said, the most heartbreaking one was when they had like a 7-year-old boy that was on a stretcher coming from Mariupol, and you can't physically put it into words to experience it. I mean, I feel very privileged to have been able to spend time with Ukrainian people. They have such good hearts.
Yeah.
Through everything, they're still smiling, and it puts your life into perspective of, wow,
But, there's also, a big shout out to the volunteers. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have any idea what to expect. And these guys are literally 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day are pushing shopping trolleys full of supplies through the border, delivering them into there, get stamped, go across the border, empty the trolley, come back, get stamped again coming in. And their passports are basically filling up, running out, and they're rushing to Warsaw to do an emergency renewal. And they come back with their emergency passport. They cross over the border as much as they can till that runs out, until their replacement passport comes. And these guys have gone through multiple passports. And then in the Ukraine itself, you have private vehicles, buses, basically going back and forth to Lviv.
With
back and forth, with bullet holes in, just shipping people back and forth, trying to get people to the border.
Listen, I've been watching the videos that you've done, Ellie, and they're very moving. What's the story with the grand piano?
So he was amazing. So he has travelled throughout his life through war zones. So he was previously in Afghanistan. He's been in a lot of places where conflict has been something, and he has a peace sign on his piano, and he just plays for people that are living in war zones and are living in times of crisis. And it's incredible, really, because he's got such a talent that he could be in a massive hall somewhere playing for people that are paying him to play, but he travels with his cat, he sleeps in his car, and he sits and plays all evening for the refugees and for volunteers.
His grand piano is on wheels, and it's been modified to have a trailer attachment, and literally just hooks it up to his car, and he drives to wherever it is. And his music he plays, is of such a high quality, but it travels throughout the camp, and all the volunteers appreciate it, because it's almost like a motivational music to keep going. Because
I think this is important, actually, what you just said, because we think of the refugees so much, and I mean, I don't really like using the term refugees, but the people that are leaving Ukraine, but also, as you said, the volunteers, they have like a little bit in the camp, which is just purely for kind of their time to reflect on it, because they still cry. As soon as you see what you're seeing, you have to process it, and you don't want to cry in front of someone. And one of the volunteers, Yakov, actually said to me, he was crying, and a 7-year-old Ukrainian child came up to him and didn't say anything, just hugged him. So I think there's a lot of support going back and forth between them. but they also need support. And a lot of these people went over to fight actually in Ukraine. But when they got to the Royal Legion tent, they said, we have to take your passports. And when we take your passports, you will not receive them back until the war is over.
Right.
And there's a lot of support there for people that are going over to fight and perhaps don't want to do that, because if war breaks out in Europe, they want to be able to fight for their own country. And they also want the ability to be able to leave. This war could go on for years.
Yeah. They're willing to give 3 months, 6 months, or a year. But I'm talking about the Ukrainians. I don't want people who are going to, in their eyes, I mean, you've got to try to understand why they're doing it. They don't want people just to walk out because they become an integral part of the team. So yeah, I mean, Jakub was telling there were 16 people there to volunteer. Only 4 actually signed up because of this requirement to give up their passports. And people have flown from the States, and people have flown from all around the world. And
they're still helping, being volunteers. You know, that's the thing. They're still part
Tobias,
of
for example. Tobias, he was a Swedish guy, came over to fight, refused to give up his passport, and now he just stayed there from the beginning, volunteering, taking supplies back and forth.
We've got a question from Kerry, who's listening in just now. Can you just give us a sort of rundown on what kind of medical supplies are needed up there?
Tourniquets, bandages, wraps, compresses, injury type of medical supplies. So I mean, these supplies are going directly to Lviv. Okay, to treat people who have been bombed and shelled. So they need stuff that will stem bleeding. They need stuff that will, so they basically bandages and tourniquets.
Foil blankets as well for keeping people warm. I think is really important. They also need a lot of medicines, stuff like morphine and stuff like that. I mean, that's a bit more difficult for people to get hold of. But if you know of anyone that is able to get that across to Ukraine, then please do try, because you know, especially there's a lot of pregnant women and people that have just given birth and they don't have anything to be able to work with.
Baby supplies.
So nappies, clothes.
Definitely don't need clothes, but baby formula will always be possible. And nappies, baby nappies.
Yeah, right.
But tourniquets. They were so happy with the tourniquets. We drove all the way into Malaga before we left, and we spent ages trying to find a supplier that had tourniquets left. And we went there with a cash donation, and we basically bought their supply out.
Yeah.
Right.
So if anyone wants tourniquets in Malaga, you're not going to get it.
Sorry about that. That's our fault.
I think they've gone to a better place, though. I think.
Just be careful with any knives at the moment, okay?
Yeah. So, what is, you're in Prague at the moment? Where do you plan to get to from Prague?
So we're hoping to drive about 8 hours today.
Yeah, we're going to go to Basel in Switzerland. Some friends of mine who I used to work with have volunteered to put us up and make us a home-cooked meal. And then the next night, we're hoping to get to Barcelona, where another friend of mine is done the same offer. And then we're back in Malaga on Saturday.
Hopefully.
Ready to start diving on Sunday, yes?
Listen, guys, I know you've got a long day ahead of you. I'm so happy to see the two of you and to speak to you. And, you know, we can't bask in the reflected glory of what you guys are doing, but we're so proud of you.
Thank you very much.
But it's also thank you to them. Literally, we didn't organise the donations. It's really important to say that. All we did was sit down one night and say, this Kalima is coming, we had this rubbish weather coming, and I have a big van sat there, and there's loads of stuff sat there that you guys donated.
Yeah.
And, people like Daniela were amazing. Everyone who did it all. You guys are the ones that organised this. All I did was take it to all over to
you thought, some shitty weather coming, so I think we'll just head off to Ukraine instead.
Yeah. It was 17 degrees there. They had a heat wave while we were there. It was amazing. 4 degrees a few days before, 4 degrees now. The day we were there, it was 17 degrees. It was lovely. I was in a t-shirt.
I have to tell you, Bill, we've the journey has been very interesting. I think especially, I'll tell you about one time when we were driving back from Ukraine, we were both so tired, weren't we? And trams are a very big thing in Europe, apparently. So I was driving, and I get a little bit panicky in cities, because things are happening everywhere. And our sat nav Ronnie told us to turn right, didn't we?
Oh yeah, onto a tram track.
And a train coming.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
So we're trying to make it home in one piece. I think it was safer in Ukraine, wasn't
Oh,
it?
definitely. No towns in Ukraine.
Listen, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and
Thank you, mate.
thank you on behalf of everyone in Mijas for undertaking this journey, and have a safe journey back. And I think, Ellie, you might deserve a day off on Sunday.
No, she's a dive master trainee, not a chance. Yeah, they don't get days off.
I'll leave him somewhere on the street in Prague.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, and we'll see you when you get back. You take care, guys. Safe
Take
journey,
care.
and thank you again from all of us.
Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.